Hello, scrappers, recyclers, and folks who are interested in investing in those companies. Welcome to Shark Scrapper Live on Easter 2023. I guess there's a lot of folks that are out, doing their Easter thing. But hopefully some folks will come in and join us and have a good time here. Welcome to See You Scrapping, who was first in today. Roger, great to have you here. Electronic Scrapper, JR Cat, Bush Dog Scrapper, Electronic Scrapper. Welcome, everybody. It's great to have you here. So first up, a couple of questions. I don't know what Mrs. Shark is cooking for dinner. She has been going crazy this week doing confectionery, making candy for her, this is going to sound hilarious, her exercise group. So she goes to the gym every day, sometimes 2-3 times a day. So she just went nuts making little candy Easter eggs and things like that to share with the ladies in that group and the kids. So I don't know, I might be just getting leftovers today. Hard to say. CC DeVille, welcome. Great to have you here. And I just, before we get started, I've got to share this. It's hilarious. Here, wait a minute. Let me, I got to get this ready here because this is just unbelievably hilarious. I got this from one of the viewers. And you know who you are. Okay, y'all ready for this? Oh, man. Roger, I just about lost it when I saw that, man. Hey, Gaz, how's it going? Mrs. Shark is, as you know, she said, she asked me if I wanted one of these for the shark cage. And I said, no, we don't have the urinals at the shark cage. We'll just have the sit down kind. And this is intimidating enough. I don't know about, having this as a sit down. So yeah. Thanks, Roger. I really needed that laugh today. So with that out of the way, we've got some fun stuff to talk about today. We're going to be talking about. Hey, Mike, how's it going, man? We're going to be talking about platinum today. We're going to be talking about lead, and we've got 3 companies to talk about today from the recent week's stock reports. So we're gonna see how that goes. Mike, nice shirt too, man. I saw you sporting your shark attire. It's awesome. Without waiting any further here, let's get right over to platinum. Here we go. Here's our platinum, and here is the 24-hour. Not a whole lot going on, up by 1%. We come over here, we look at what's going on the 3-day, and we can see that it is down just a scotchy. It's at 1,027.9. And then for the month, it is up. That's nice for the month, up 6.7. Year to date, it's down, so for the 1 year, it's up only a couple of percent. And if we look at the 5-year, we can see that it's up 10%. And for the total history, going back to 1992, it's up 191%. All right, well, let's talk about here. We're going to look at the 3-month while we're chatting about platinum a little bit. Platinum is an interesting precious metal because we all know that it's primarily, for our scrap business, it's primarily catalytic converters where we see the platinum used. And so it drives the pricing for catalytic converters. But and that has a lot to do with what's happening with the prices for platinum. Prices being driven by two things: supply and demand. And when cars weren't being sold, of course, you didn't need as much platinum, and so pricing went down. Cars are back on the market, so you're going to see the need for platinum coming back, and that's going to drive the prices up again. As we shift over to EVs, you don't need quite as much platinum because you're not going to have catalytic converters, but you're still going to have platinum being used because it is an important industrial kind of metal, as well as being a precious metal. It is a catalyst. It's used in a lot of reactions, chemical reactions in the petrochemical world, the fertilizer world, that kind of stuff. So it's not as if platinum is not going to be valuable in the future as we move away from internal combustion engines and the need for catalytic converters. I also found this really interesting when I was researching a little more into platinum. There's going to be platinum even in the EVs, because the airbags in cars have a platinum silicon coating that protects the airbag. So when, even when we go to a total battery, complete EV world, we're still going to have platinum in cars because we're still going to have, the airbags in the cars. The issue with platinum is really just going to come down to the ability to continue to provide it. There's some weaknesses showing up in the supply side of platinum, and that will probably drive pricing for a bit. It's going to be all the research I've done so far says that the real driver on the prices is going to be from the supply side, not the demand side. So that's what we're looking at for platinum. If you're big into selling catalytic converters, you might see slow price increases, but overall, nothing dramatic, right? And we all know that platinum is also used in jewelry. It's not as well liked as jewelry. It's also not looked at by the investment world the way gold and silver are, as investment metals. So it's really the industrial component of platinum that drives the pricing. Mr. Matthews, welcome, sir. Great to have you here. Scrapping on the Fly. How you doing, man? Great to have you here. Yes, Scrapping on the Fly. That was quite the urinal, wasn't it? A little bit can you imagine walking in, not knowing that was there, walking in, and I think I'd have performance anxiety with that thing. All right, so, any comments on platinum that y'all have? Go ahead and drop them in there while we move on to our safety note, and I'll be looking for your platinum comments while we're talking safety today. And it's Easter. That means things are starting to warm up in the Northern Hemisphere. That means things are starting to kind of get back to life. And when I mean things, I'm talking critters. Now, of course, down here in Florida, critters are around pretty much all year, right? It doesn't get so cold that the critters go into deep hibernation. Every now and then, the iguanas will fall out of the trees when we have a nice cold snap. But for the most part, down here in Florida, things are active all year round. But further up north, as the spring takes hold and you start getting warmer weather, you're going to start having the animals, the critters, the bugs and things start to wake up and come back to life. So it's always important when you get scrap, especially if you're getting it from a field or someplace where it may have been stored for a long time, that you just give it a real quick check to see if there's anything inside it or around it. You've seen the videos where I have literally opened up computers and found wasp nests in them. Cockroaches are not, I always expect there to be a cockroach or two inside of PCs. Although that one that I showed you the picture of this week was unbelievable. Holy cow. Just that was a lot of cockroaches in that PC shell. Mr. Matthews says he saw a spider today painting the fence. Okay, all right. I don't think you meant the spider was painting the fence, but you were painting the fence and the spider was there. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see, because your follow-on says, so look, wait a minute here. So Ian says he saw a spider today painting the fence, and that was unusual. Was it unusual because you were painting the fence or the spider was? And then the follow-on comment is, that could have saved me a job. So I'm thinking the spider was painting the fence. Ian, we're going to need some more explanation on this one, man. You're going to have to explain that one a little bit. So you've got things that want to crawl inside of the PCs and take up residency. And of course, bee stings and stuff, they can hurt. It's not dangerous unless you're allergic to bee stings and stuff. Rodents, while I've seen evidence of rodents in stuff that I've picked up, I haven't run into any rodents live inside of the critters. I certainly have scared more than a few when I've been getting stuff from old barns or outside storage compartments. So definitely got to watch out. Rodents will usually just take off and run away. Now, the thing you got to be careful of with rodents is, depending upon where you live, they can, harbor, diseases, and you don't want to be catching any of those diseases. I had one lady who is a nurse comment on one of my videos, when there was a lot of rodent stuff left over in a piece of electronics. And she reminded me of, some of the nasty diseases they can spread and the importance of not inhaling dust if there's a lot of rodent fecal remains and stuff like that. So Bushdog says our bugs are starting to come out. We hit 72 Fahrenheit yesterday, and today should be a little bit warmer. 3 mosquitoes already. Squish them early. Yeah, mosquitoes are actually one of the deadliest. I think they might even be the deadliest creature other than man. They may kill more humans than we kill ourselves, because they transmit diseases like malaria and stuff like that. So, yeah, mosquitoes are harsh. And Scrap Rodriguez says, yep, a lot of mosquitoes here because of the rain. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of mosquitoes. Of course, here in Florida, we've got a lot of mosquitoes that you contend with. But it's interesting because there's some places where there's hardly any mosquitoes at all. And then there's some places where they're everywhere. So mosquitoes can be a real issue here in Florida, as you might imagine. Now, the other thing you got to be careful of if you're picking up scrap from that's outside are reptiles. So snakes love to hide in things. And if you grab hold of scrap from an outside pile, especially here in the US, you've got the potential for venomous snakes to be hanging out there. Now, it's very rare for people to die from a venomous snake bite here in the US, but they can really cause a lot of damage. You can get, it can really mess up your hands and your skin. You can have necrosis can set in, not to mention that it can hurt like a real booger. So you do want to be really careful when you're lifting things up that have been outside for any length of time, because you don't know what's going to be hanging out underneath of it. So that's our critter safety tip. If you've had any fun experiences with critters, please drop a comment and share with us, some of the wonderful times you've had with critters as you've been scrapping. I've shared a few on my channel. Man, I tell you the one that to this day bugs me the most were those dang wasps. I don't know if y'all remember that one video that I did. There was a wasp nest in the computer, and I didn't have wasp bug spray. All I had was ant and roach spray. And it turns out that ant and roach spray doesn't kill wasps. It just makes them mad. So by the time I got done with that PC, I had wasps flying all over the shark cage, just madder than hell. None of them came down and stung me, but man, it was that was a weird one. So Scrapper Wolf brings up a really good point. And if you're a hobbyist and you're one of the folks that's doing this kind of stuff at the house, boy, you always want to be really, really careful with this. I used to scrap in my garage before I did it as a business. And I always had the roach spray right there because the last thing I wanted to do was get roaches in the house. Now it's Florida. There's always roaches in Florida. It's impossible to not have roaches in your house in Florida, but I didn't want to help them. So, but Scrapper Wolf, spot on there. And, if you're breaking down, some people do it in the basement of their house. Some people will do it in a spare room. A lot of people do it in the garage. You always got to be careful with critters that you might be bringing in. Let's see. Hey, Mike, have you seen the groundhog recently? That's one of Mike's critters, is his groundhog. I'm just wondering if the groundhog has been out yet. All right, so let's move on to lead. Let's get the lead out. Now look, lead. I think we all know lead for wait a minute. This one caught my eye. Hang on a second. Oh, 1-inch roaches. Scrap Rodriguez, when I first read that comment, I thought you said 11-inch roaches. I was going to say, man, that's a big roach. But 1-inch roach, yeah, got it. Mike has not seen the groundhog for a while. Okay. J.R. Cat says he shot 2 at the barn. Shot 2 what at the barn? All right. Lead. Yeah, let's get back to lead. Okay, so for us in the scrapping world, lead is usually lead acid batteries. Now, sometimes you get lead from old plumbing and, weird things like that. So lead acid batteries being one of the prime sources for the lead that we get. And one of the things that I found really interesting as I research, the batteries is, and it makes sense, right? It's just, you sometimes I read this stuff and I go, oh yeah, that makes perfectly good sense. It's like, I knew that all the time, but until you read it, you don't necessarily bin it in that way. You look at lead acid batteries in particular, there's 2 varieties of batteries. You've got the batteries that are for, they're called SLI, starting, lighting, ignition. And those are your typical car batteries, right? They're the kind that every now and then you have to put distilled water in because they're not sealed. And so over time, some of that water can evaporate, changing the chemistry of the battery, making them less efficient, adding to wear and tear on them. And so every now and then, especially, I can remember older lead acid batteries, that was like a regular job, checking the water on them. Newer ones, not as bad. They are built a little bit different than the batteries that we see in uninterruptible power supplies and backup systems. Those tend to be what are called valve regulated lead acid batteries. And the construction is very different between these two. So let's see. I want to show this here for a minute. So, here's your typical sealed lead acid battery like we would find in a UPS system. And this is from Wikipedia, by the way. And I don't feel bad using this from Wikipedia, one, because I'm telling you where it's from, but also because I donate to Wikipedia every year. So, by the way, if you don't donate to Wikipedia, they don't ask for a lot, but every now and then, if you throw some bucks at them, it really helps to keep that available for us. So anyway, on to let's get back to the batteries here. So we're used to seeing this, but what I found was really interesting is the way these are constructed. So you see where it says the separators here? So the separators between the positive and the negative plate are a kind of permeable material. That's where the electrolyte is contained. And because they're sealed with the electrolyte in this permeable material, they don't lose the, you don't have, it's not like you're refilling the electrolyte, putting distilled water in. The chemistry doesn't change. And so the result is that these batteries are much more efficient at storing battery, staying on a trickle charge and having energy available for deep energy, deep cycle kind of needs for battery backups and big server farms and those kind of things. Whereas your typical car battery, when you've got the car running, it's charging, it recharges for whatever was needed to get the car started and everything. Then it's there and it's charging. And when you're not running the generator, it's kind of losing its energy while it's just sitting there, unless you plug it into a charger. Now, I also found it was very interesting that these sealed batteries, you can't use the same battery charger that you would use on a car, an SLI battery, as you can on most of these. So you always want to check if you have these batteries as separate, not in a UPS system. You always want to check what kind of charger you're using on them to make sure that they're getting the right kind of charge and you're not messing them up using a charger that's not designed for it. And this is what one of those sealed or gel type batteries look like when it's broken open. So really interesting stuff. It fascinates me. The more I learn about scrap and by doing these live streams as I'm digging into this kind of stuff, I just get fascinated by the different stuff that I pick up as I'm messing around with with understanding these things. All right, well, let's get back over here to our pricing. That's what we really want to talk about, is our pricing. So we've got the 24-hour price. Really didn't do much of anything here, just sort of a little bit down, mostly flat. The 30-day lead price, we saw a nice climb up here, and then it's dropped off again some. If we go to the 60-day, we just saw this one here on the 30-day. On the 60-day, it was, really, when you see this kind of stuff, right? When you see this kind of stuff here, you draw a straight line through it like that, and you say, yeah, it bounced all around, but it really didn't do a whole lot of moving until about 30 days ago when it climbed like we just saw. In the 6-month, we can see that this 30-day climb and fall really is nothing, because we had this nice spike back here in January. And so you can see coming, October through January, prices really went up, and so did the size of my line. And then we've had this drop, and, is it trying to come up again? Well, if you look remember what I said about the straight line. So if you go back here and you draw this right across here, it's like, it's really not doing much of anything here, is it? So, and then 1 year really dropped. Here was the high at a little over $1.10, and now we're down here in the 95. So overall, it looks like it's dropping. And here you've got 5 year, and this is interesting. If you look at the 5 year, we can see, if we look at this $1.10, or you look at this $1.10 line here, And we haven't gotten over that a whole lot. Now, here was a maximum here. Wait a minute. I don't want to use that big a line. Let's do this. So here was a maximum here, and it looks like we had a little bit of an increase. Yeah, I think that arrow is going up so we had some little bit of spike in the prices. We bounce off of that high and then we come back down again. And that's like a ceiling, right? And so you get these ceilings and it bounces off the ceiling and falls back down again. And this is interesting here, because if we look at the bases, we can see that the base is always going up. So, we keep bouncing off that same high ceiling and the bases are going up. So let's see we like to look at the supply and demand of this. So let's go down here and look at what's happening with our London Metal Exchange warehouse levels. 30-day stock levels are increasing. All right. So they're building up the stock. 60 days. Wow, that was a real steep increase there, and still increasing. 6 month, it looks like we used up a lot of, oops, wrong one. Got to push the button, dummy. So it looks like we used up a bunch of lead, and now we're starting to recover. And then our 1 year inventory had been holding steady for a while, had been holding steady relatively until we cranked up the use on it, using up a lot of the inventory. Now we're building that inventory back up again. By the way, Epic Pen just did an update, and so I'm playing around with some of the new things that were in the update, and I kind of got my buttons a little bit screwed up. All right, now the 5 year, this is really revealing here. So with the 5 year inventory levels, here's our maximum inventory levels across here. And so you can see that we are way down from our maximum inventory levels for lead. And as the world has come out of the pandemic, lead inventories have gone down. That makes a lot of sense. Why? Because we weren't buying a lot of cars during COVID. Now that people are out there, they're buying cars again. And so we see the lead inventories dropping. So that makes a lot of sense on what's going on with lead. And me, I love to see inventories drop, because that means prices should go up, or at least be relatively stable and maybe going up. And there's a lot of folks out there that are concerned that what will happen with with lead is that it's going to run out of favor as EVs come in. Maybe. First of all, EVs aren't going to take over real fast. We're seeing more and more, but you're still going to have plenty of internal combustion engine type vehicles out there. So I think the demand for batteries for vehicles is not going to drop real fast. It is going to drop, but not real fast. Countering that, though, is this transition to the server farms and the computers that we all have, and more of that demand for those deep cycle kind of batteries will keep lead demands up. Now, we all know that lithium and other battery chemistries are a big thing, but there's a lot of concern that people have about lithium batteries and the safety of lithium batteries. That is a trade-off. You get more energy in a lithium battery, but because you have more energy in that lithium battery, it can be more of a fire hazard. We're gonna, as the whole energy storage and array systems continue to develop, we're going to see a lot of changes. But I think what we'll see for lead in the long term is some relative price stability, and not we might see a little more growth in lead pricing here, but um, I don't see a whole lot of change. I don't see it dropping real fast. I don't see it going up real fast. We will, of course, have all of the fluctuations that go on in any market. But I would say I wouldn't hold on to batteries. If you get batteries for scrap, take them in and sell them. Just keep them moving. I don't see any reason to be hanging on to batteries the way I hang on to copper. Now, batteries also present an interesting challenge for some scrappers because depending upon where you live, you may have laws regarding how many batteries you can sell. So, for instance, here in Florida, a peddler, that's the average person off the street coming into a scrapyard, is only allowed to sell 2, in some places you go 2, batteries at a time, lead acid batteries. Doesn't matter how big they are. It can be 2 great big car or truck batteries, or it can be 2 of the little APC batteries. You're only allowed to sell 2 at a time. That is purely a theft mitigation measure. If you make it hard for people to sell them, then you're not going to have folks out there stealing batteries out of cars and trying to sell a whole bunch of them right away. So and again, this is just in Florida. Now, because I have a secondary metal recycler certificate in Florida, essentially I'm a scrapyard, I can sell as many as I have. I could sell a pallet. I could sell a ton of them. They don't care because I have that SMR certificate, which means it's my responsibility to know where the batteries came from, make sure they weren't stolen, document them properly before I sell them on to somebody else. So make sure you understand what the laws are in your location for selling batteries. I'm sure your scrapyard is going to tell you right away, if you bring in a whole bunch of batteries and they can only buy 2 at a time, they're going to say, yeah, we can only buy 2 at a time. They'll be happy to take all of them. I'm sure they're only going to pay for 2. So let's see. JR Cat, he says he saves all the lead he can for reloading. Yeah, ammunition is one of the other areas that lead is used for, along with pigments and cable coatings and stuff like that. So that's that is another use for lead. Now, JR Cat, do you make the shot yourself? Do you melt it down and make shot, or do you are you just buying it? Collecting it as shot? Let's see. Scrap Rodriguez, I started taking them to O'Reilly. Does O'Reilly pay you for them, or is it for trade-in value, or what's the deal there with O'Reilly? I know O'Reilly is an auto parts store. We've got them here too. So yeah, what do they do for it? How do they take them? JR Cat says as many as you can get on the truck. Okay, all right, cool. And hey, Joe G, welcome. Great to have you here. Let's see. Roger says my yard only pays 10 cents a pound for batteries. I take mine to O'Reilly Auto Parts and get $10 per battery in store credit. Okay, all right. So he has $200 in credit for truck parts, tools, etc. Very cool. All right, gotcha. And then here, Scrap Rodriguez is confirming that they give me $10 gift card. Okay, all right. So you get a gift card and not the store credit where you're located. Same O'Reilly's kind of deal. So that's another way to do it. If you are frequently going to O'Reilly's for automobile parts and stuff like that, then yeah, you might as well get the store credit or the gift cards from them. That's a very cool thing to do. If because yeah, the prices aren't that great for a lot of to sell them. Yeah, I'm getting 10, 12 cents a pound right now for lead acid batteries. So let's see, PSOD, welcome. Great to see you here. Scrap and Pallet Man, Paul, great to see you here. Happy Easter, my friend. Great to have you with us. So, that's really interesting about O'Reilly's. I'm glad that y'all shared that because that's good to share with other folks. If you're not getting decent prices for your lead acid batteries, then yeah, going to O'Reilly's can be a good option. And I imagine that maybe some of the other auto parts dealers do something similar. The other thing that happens here, I'm assuming a lot of places, but here in Florida, when you buy a new car battery, you pay this RECORE fee. Unless you bring in your old battery, they don't pay you anything for the old battery, but then you don't get charged with the core fee or the RECORE fee or something like that. And that's supposed to be some method for mitigating, the lead ending up in landfills and stuff like that. They figure if you've paid money for it, you're going to bring the battery back. So that's another thing that some folks get a little bit upset with, right? JR Cat says O'Reilly's offers military discount. Yeah, it's always cool when people do that, and you've been in the military and you get that military discount. That's always very cool. All right, so lead, we'll keep an eye on lead. We'll see what happens with lead, but yeah, don't expect a whole lot. All right, now it is time for our business notes for the day, and probably one of the things that I get asked the most from people is, how do you advertise? What are you doing for advertisement? And this applies even if you're just doing this as a hobby, because you don't necessarily have to be a business to do this. I don't do a lot of brochures, as some people like to call them, because to me, I just, it's like one of the first things that I do when somebody hands me a brochure is I toss it in the recycle bin. So I don't do much in the way of brochure type advertising. I do have business cards, of course. And what I've done with my business cards is on the back of them, I have the kind of material that I accept, that I pick up from people. And of course, I had a business card sitting here that I could show you. And I have put a bunch of stuff on top of it. Here we go. So here's the business card. And of course, it's got my contact information underneath of my fingers. So let's not, you want to have your contact information so that people know where to bring the scrap to, how to contact you. And then on the back, I have the kind of stuff that I pick up. Now, the other important aspect of your business card, or at least what I believe is important and often overlooked, is I don't know if you can tell, but this side of the card is kind of shiny, right? But the back side of the card is matte finish or no finish at all. You can write on this part without any problem. You can't write on the smooth, glossy side of the card. The ink usually doesn't stick. So I always like to make sure that the back of my card is plain paper, matte finish, so that people can take notes on it if they want to, or I can scribble a note on it for them. And it's always good to just list the kind of stuff that you take, because a lot of times folks will just be scratching their head going, well, what's e-waste? I mean, do you take this or do you take that? And they're still going to ask, and you can't fit everything on the back of the card the way you would want to, but it at least gives people an understanding of the kind of stuff that you're going to pick up without having to have a big brochure. The other thing that I will do is I will send old-fashioned letters to people. I have a regular plan of looking through businesses that are in my geographic area that could be generating scrap, and I will send them a letter. Now, I don't send them an old-fashioned letter because I'm old. I send them an old-fashioned letter because it's too easy to ignore email. Cold emails, they're probably going to end up in the spam bucket anyway. They probably won't even see them. But a letter is probably going to get opened and read by somebody. So I recommend sending a letter. Yeah, you got to pay for the stamp, but if you do it intelligently and selectively, you're not going to be sending out that many of them, and it can be very focused. One of my best leads came because I sent one of these cold letters. I sent it to an IT company in the area. The owner of the company read the letter. He said, "Oh yeah, I need somebody like this." He put it aside. "Hey, Raphael, great to see you, man. Welcome aboard. Cruiser Mac, welcome aboard. Great to see you here, man. Happy Easter." And then a month or so later, when he had built up a stock of stuff, he called me, and he and I have been doing business now for 9 months. He's introduced me to a number of other people, and it was just because I took the time to write an old-fashioned letter. So don't discount the old-fashioned letter, because that will probably get read, whereas an email is just going to end up in a spam bucket somewhere. Scrap Rodriguez brings up a good point. He also adds no plastic, no wood, no tires. Yeah, that's not a bad suggestion. You got to be careful with the plastic thing, because that might confuse people, because let's face it, most e-waste is wrapped in plastic. So that might confuse people. I understand where you're going with that, but but it's just something to be aware of, right? But the no wood, no tires, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I get people asking me, do you take tires? I'm tearing down this deck, can you take the wood? Now, I have a junk hauler that I work with, so I can recommend the junk hauler. And what our arrangement is when he picks up e-waste or other scrap items, he sells it to me. And when I find leads for stuff that's not e-waste or scrap, but junk hauling, I give it to him. So it's a good relationship to have going there. So that's a very good point. Very good suggestion. All right. So that is our business note of the day. By the way, for those of you that did not hear, our friend Scrapping Irish is not going to be live today. He is goofing off at a soccer game, football match, one of those things over there. Big deal. He's at the game right now, if I understand correctly, which means he's probably also a bit tipsy right now. So I don't expect that we're going to see him come up at all. He is not going to be live after this show, so we might go a little bit longer today. So we'll see how that one plays out. Kevin Sturgis, welcome. Great to see you here, man. So anyway, if you're wondering where Irish is, that's what's going on there. All right, so it is time to talk about the stock companies of interest. Now, it's funny, we've actually been doing this long enough now that the Value Line Investment Survey, where I get all this information from, has come around full cycle, and we are starting to revisit some of the companies that we've already talked about. So how's that? I mean, that's pretty cool that we've been at this long enough now that we're getting a chance to see, some of the longevity of some of these trends. All right, so the first company that we are going to dive into, we've looked at them before. Snap-on Tools. You may recall that Snap-on was not qualified for the cash flow per share, the earnings per share, but they are qualified as a Div 1. So here's Div 1, and that's because they had this one flat year. I think a lot of, I don't know, is there Snap-on? Do you have Snap-on in over in Europe. Let me see if they say here if Snap-on is international. I don't know. Snap-on, a leading global manufacturer and marketer of tools. Okay, yeah, so they are. They're global. Product line includes hand and power tools, tool storage, diagnostic software, information management system, shop equipment, and other solutions for dealers and repair centers. And I think it's interesting. The company derives income from various financing programs. And it's one of the things that I have heard the most when I talk to, because I see these Snap-on tools at shops when I go to visit them, motorcycle shops, auto shops, and stuff like that. And one of the things that Snap-on does is if you can't afford a tool, but you need the tool, then you can buy the tool on a payment program. So essentially they're giving you a loan to buy the tool. And so it's one of the ways that they can make some money. Cruiser Mag says he's a Snap-on investor. I have a feeling that what you really mean by that is that you buy a lot of Snap-on stuff. Oh, yeah, here you go. Oh, yes, you can. Yeah, because I don't know if any of you remember, but in one of Cruiser's, I think it was the last time we talked about Snap-on, and then we went over to Scrapping Irish's stream. I think Cruiser came up and he was showing us this workbench, and it was just unbelievably expensive. I was in Workbench envy, I must admit, because I think all of mine are free, that I've just found them. There's, there is that. All right. So anyway, back over here. Snap-on Tools, 2.9% dividend. So yeah, not quite the 4% that I normally look for. And that's on a $237 share price. Holy bajoli, that's a lot of money. But here's what that looks like graphically. You can see these dividends, always going up. And look at this, their cash flow and earnings per share also heading on up. For a tool company, these folks get it, right? They just get it. They know how to make good tools that people want. They know how to sell the tools. So, they're doing well. So Snap-on Tools, I do not own any, and I'm probably not going to own any because I'm not going to pay this much money and only get this much return. Not going to happen. There's other reasons, of course, to invest. I am a boring dividend investor. Hence, this is not the stock for me. Yes, Ian, we know you have a workbench somewhere. You may even have more than one somewhere. Oh, man. Okay, so next in the machine tool world, we're going to talk about Stanley Black & Decker. I know there's a lot of folks that hate Stanley Black & Decker. I know there's a lot of folks that love Stanley Black & Decker. It's just a reality of the situation. Stanley Black & Decker, diversified global provider of hand tools, power tools, and related accessories, mechanical access solutions, and more. The tools and outdoor segment, 85% of sales is comprised of power tools, hand tools, accessories and storage, and outdoor power equipment business. The industrial division is 15% of sales and is comprised of engineered fasteners and infrastructure. They have, wow, this is interesting, 71,300 employees. Holy cow, that's a lot of employees. Now, there's going to be something interesting that we're going to see here with Stanley Black & Decker. They are qualified as a Div 0. So right here, you can see that their dividends per share have gone up every year for the last 17 years, actually longer than that. The other thing that I want to bring to your attention is look at this 4.2%. So that is a good return. That's the kind of return that I want to see. And that's not a bad share price, $76.42. So that is a decent entry point, and this is one of the big discussions with Stanley Black & Decker. Here, let's go down here. We're going to scroll down and look at this. This is ugly, right? You see this and you say to yourself, what in the world is going on here? Well, they did some restructuring. And because of that, they took some hits for earnings per share and cash flow per share. Their goal was to be more efficient, to save some money on their, on a lot of different things like their infrastructure and stuff like that. And you can see it appears as though they have turned the corner, that all of that money and time that they invested in that restructuring is paying off, and they're starting in the other direction. Of course, we'll have to see how that progresses with time. But throughout all of this, they took care of their investors. You can see the dividend per share continued to rise throughout. And if we look at the year-to-year changes, here's the dips that we saw from their restructuring efforts. But you can always see that the gold bar, which is the dividends per share, is always above the zero line. So Stanley Black & Decker has some good investment potential for you to consider. Now, I do want to read you this one section about Stanley Black & Decker from Value Line. It says, short-term investors can find more alluring alternatives elsewhere, but patient investors looking for a turnaround play may find this an enticing entry point. So at the recent quotation, this equity now offers appealing capital appreciation potential over the next 3 to 5 years, and income-seeking investors will certainly take a shine to the above-average dividend yield. So that's me, dividend investor. That's what I'm taking a shine to. Some people, most people, are buying stocks because they expect the value of the stock to go up over time. And that's what the analysts at the investment survey are saying is going to happen with Stanley Black & Decker. So if you were thinking about investing in the machine tool kind of space, Stanley Black & Decker would not be a bad place to look. Of course, I have to remind everybody, I am not a financial planner. I'm not certified, licensed, or in any way, covered by any of those kind of things. This is just how I look at stocks. So if you're going to do this, make sure you do your due diligence and, really look hard before you invest any of your money. I wish I had known the stuff that I know now that I got from my MBA program about companies that I invest in back when I threw money at companies and lost it all. So I'm much more careful these days. Before we get on to our bonus stock for the day, let's take a look at some of the comments that have been popping up here. I noticed that Gulf Coast was saying 34 at 5 a.m. It was Cruiser Mac cold, but Cruiser Mac, he's not living in Florida anymore. And I know Cruiser Mac had to go take care of something. They had a problem in the house or something like that. Gulf Coast has moved. He's not in Florida anymore, Dorothy. He's up. He is up where it is chilly. Up where it is chilly. There you go. Now he says he was on the west coast of Florida, but now I'm on vacation 11 hours northeast. So let's see, what do we got going here? Earl Fowler was wondering, have a 12 pallet pickup in Mobile in 2 weeks. Oh, cool. 12 pallets. Man, you must have a big trailer. If you're picking up 12 pallets all at one time, that's a lot of floor space, man. So what are you picking up, Earl? Can you share it with us? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are wondering. All right, so let's get on to the bonus. The bonus. You know what? Wait a minute. Since we're talking about, before we do our bonus stuff, since we are talking about the pallets of stuff, remember this, I put this up as a post on my community tab and asked people to guess at the weight of this. Now, here in the United States, we call these boxes Gaylord boxes. They set on a standard pallet. You can see the pallet underneath of it down here. So they sit on a standard pallet, and they're roughly a meter by meter, a little bigger. What's a pallet is 48 by 48, I think, something like that. So this is full of green small socket motherboards. Now, some of you are going to look at this picture and you're going to say, but wait, that's actually small metal green sockets. If you look real carefully, you're going to notice that some of them are not green metal. I think you can tell that from this picture. You may not be able to, but this is actually just a collection of various green small socket boards. There's a company in Atlanta called EV-Terra. That's spelled Echo, Victor, Tango, Echo, Romeo, Romeo, Alpha, EV-Terra. And they do not break out green motherboards the way BoardSort does. They just call them small socket green motherboards. It doesn't matter what is, if they're metal or plastic, if they're the AMD types, they just throw them all in one load. So when I spoke to their sales guy a while back, I made the decision to go ahead and start filling up a Gaylord box because they offer more per pound than my local scrapyard. Now, it doesn't do me any good to ship green motherboards of any type to BoardSort, because by the time I get done paying shipping, I can earn more just taking them to my local yard. But my local yard only buys as high, medium, and low grade. So, it's like I'm not real happy with it because I wasn't getting, it's like they're convenient, they're there. I make more than if I ship them off to BoardSort, so that's what I was doing. Then I found this company in Atlanta, and they're offering more than my local yard. And the only issue is that I had to have a minimum Gaylord quantity. So I've been filling up this Gaylord box over time, and I'm going to get a price to ship this with an LTL shipping company, but I think I may just take this there myself. The VP for sales has said that he'll have one of the guys give me a tour if I show up myself. They won't let me do any recording on site, and that's for security purposes. But they said they'll be happy to give me a tour. So I may just put this in the Sharkmobile and drive up there. Atlanta is 5.5, 6 hours from here. So I could either make it a really long day, or I could just plan to go up there, do the tour, get a hotel, and then come back the next day. I'm not quite sure. They are paying, they gave me an offer of $2.09 a pound for these. And, that's kind of cool. So I don't know if I'm going to drive up there myself or if I'm just going to ship them. I think a lot of it will depend on what the shipping company comes back with for the shipping price. Because, it's the LTL shipping is different than just doing your normal kind of shipping. There's different pricing involved. So, and it's really squirrely. I mean, LTL shipping can be very dependent on what direction the truck is going in, the time of year. Pricing can be very inconsistent. So we're going to see what he comes back with. Anyway, How much did this weigh? So Joe G is saying 225 pounds. I was actually really disappointed when I put this on the scale. I'm going to type it in. So I put this on the scale, and it came back at 514 pounds. That is that includes the box and the pallet. So, take off 40, 50 pounds for the box and the pallet. That wasn't as much. I thought I was going to be closer to 600 pounds. I still got a little bit of room here, so I could probably put a few more boards in here before I head up there. It's not like they're going to weigh it again anyway, so it's not like this locks in the price. But they wanted to know what kind of price, how much weight we were talking about, because part of their pricing is, how much it comes in. So, yeah, I really thought I had closer to 600 pounds. I was kind of disappointed. I'm gonna have to be much better at my packing next time around. I got to admit, what I was doing was, this is across from the breakdown station, from the operating table. And so what I would do is, when I was breaking down computers, I would have a small bin right there at the breakdown station. And then when that got full, I would dump it into this. I probably should have been more careful about packing things tighter, so that I could get more weight in. But oh well, live and learn. So still, 500 pounds is not bad, right? That's going to be close to $1,000. And we're only, if I drive up there, maybe $100 in gas or something like that. So we're going to do okay. But we'll see what comes of that. And I will, of course, share with everybody how this plays out. But I wanted to show that and let you all know what the weight was. I know some of you dropped comments on the community tab, and I responded to you already. So I just wanted to talk about this a little bit while we were here. All right, so our bonus company of the day. I tell you what, we all love this company. Well, I shouldn't say that, because I'm making the assumption that everybody loves this company. Let's move you over here. I think everybody loves this company. I'm not quite sure, but 3M. At a minimum, I can say we all know this company, right? 3M. It's funny. They started out. Most of you, I'm sure, know this. They started out as the Minnesota Mining and Minerals Company, and they were doing abrasives and sandpaper. And one of the things that I love about 3M is that they have a requirement for the amount of time and money that gets spent in research and development, which is why they've come up with so many great products over time. Just a really, really interesting company from that perspective. Now, making it even more interesting is they're offering a 5.9% yield. Now, granted, that's on $100. Let's see, wait a minute. I moved this over to the side to get it out of the way. So it's on a $100.49, 101.50 kind of price per share, but that's not too terrible, especially to get 5.9%. That's a real nice yield, a very nice yield. And we're talking about a company that has always increased their dividends per share for the last 17 years, and actually quite a bit longer, because I've been watching 3M for a long time. So they really know how to take care of their investors, and they're not qualified for their cash flow per share or their earnings per share. They're not doing bad, just like some companies, but they really look after their investors. Now, if we take a look at this graphically, you can see here that their cash flow. Oops, That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this. Their cash flow and their earnings per share, although they did have some negative years, have always been going up. And here's their dividends per share consistently going up. If we look at that from the year-to-year change perspective, we can see that the gold bar, which is the dividends per share, is always above the zero line. So they're really taking care of their investors. And it's just one of those companies that is well worth your consideration. If you are looking to invest in something and have some diversity, 3M they're into everything. I mean, they've got stuff out there for all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot to like about 3M as an investment in your portfolio. Yes, it's a bit more on the expensive side, but depending upon who you buy stocks through, you might be able to buy incremental shares. You may not have to buy in whole share lots. So it's just something to take a look at. By the way, I don't know that I have told you all this or not. I use Charles Schwab for my buying and selling for stocks. I've been with them for a long time as well. And, there's all kinds of discount brokerages that are out there. And I'm not saying that Charles Schwab is the be all end all. It's just that I like the tools that they give me to analyze stocks. I like how easy it is for me to buy and sell and trade with them. The prices are very reasonable when I buy and sell with them. So there is a real nice group company to work with. So Charles Schwab, if you don't have a brokerage, take a look at Charles Schwab. One of the things that I also like about Charles Schwab, I imagine most of these investment companies do this. Any money that I don't have in stocks right now, the cash still earns interest. So it's like having a bank account with them. It's earning interest. That money is there when I need to buy and sell my stocks. When I sell the stocks, the money goes into that cash account. And then if I want to, I can take money out of that cash account to use, transfer it over to my other banking accounts. Otherwise, I can leave it there and use that when I'm buying and selling other stocks. So Charles Schwab, good company to do your trading with. All right. Well, we have had a very good discussion today. Let's see. We got some pricing coming in for fuel. Folks are talking about how much they've paid for gas here. So let's see. First of all, we got this comment from Earl. He says, it's all e-waste from a satellite sister company I deal with in central Alabama. Okay. And you're renting a 28-foot truck. Okay. All right. Now that makes sense. Yeah, you're going to need something like that to haul all those pallets. So very cool. Let's see. JR Cat, take Mrs. Shark, make a night of it. Yeah, no comment. Oh, man. Let's see. We had some pricing. Here we go. Fuel prices. Gulf Coast says cheapest gas prices are in South Carolina, $3.08. Here in Ohio, gas was $3.49. Gulf Coast says $3.49, $3.37 up there. Yeah, so we'll see. To be honest with you, I haven't really paid attention to fuel prices for a while now. It's one of those things that you got to put go juice in the vehicle once a week, every other week, something like that. So it's got to be done. And I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to the local fuel prices. I suppose I could look it up real quick if I wanted to here. Let's see. Kevin Sturgis says he had Robert James shares. They gave me Dow shares, but have their share price to compensate. The price went up. Then he was found out. I'm having a hard time, man. I'm having a hard time finding that, but in the end it says, so you lost all of it is what I'm taking there. Yeah, that you really do have to be careful. And Before I got my MBA, I had no idea how to analyze a company, how to look at companies, how to understand financials. And even when you do understand the financials and you can look at the numbers, it's really good to have a source like Value Line where you can get all of the historical information and then to have a process that you can follow that allows you to be consistent in your decision making. Like I have said, just about every time I talk about this, I'm a really boring investor. I want stock returns for the most part. I dabble a little bit in some other things, but I would say 95% of every stock invested dollar of mine is in something boring and it's for the dividends. And that means they have to be somebody that meets my criteria as either a Div 1 or a Div 0 for me to invest in them. So it's really important to have a plan, a process for what you're going to do with your investment dollars if you're investing in stocks. Don't just throw a dart at the board and hope that it works. That's a great way to lose money. Don't invest in the companies that you hear the talking heads talk about, because if they're talking about it, then everybody else knows about it already as well. Have a plan, understand why you're investing, what you're going to invest in, and have the discipline to stick to your plan. And if you don't know anything at all about stocks, there's nothing wrong with just doing, one of the S&P or NASDAQ kind of, ETFs that just tracks one of the indices. Nothing wrong with that either. All right, so let's see. We had some other interesting comments here. Gulf Coast, no more street scrapping up here. Yeah, so he's saving on the monthly fuel bill. Yeah. Bush Dog says $5.40 a gallon here in Alberta, or $1.40 a liter. Wow. Yoch. That's expensive. For Carbide is asking the question, you have enough e-scrap weight, why not send it to a refinery? That's what EV Terra is. They are a refinery. They have their own foundry right there in Atlanta. So that's why I'm taking it to them. Let's see, Kevin Sturgis, 265 a liter, 91 octane here in New Zealand. Wow. Yeah. Yes, Cruiser, he moved up north. Not as far north as you, but he did move up north. So let's see, JR Cat. Wait a minute. It just moved. It just moved. Here we go. Wait a minute. Oh, there we are. JR Cat said, I assume that what JR Cat is saying is that he invests in silver and real estate. Okay. Yep, makes sense. Raffle Scrapper, how is the minimum shares amount you use to buy, if I can ask, or what is your preferred amount to go for? So if you're talking about stocks, Raffle, let me go right back over here. And what I'm looking for is a 4% or higher dividend yield. The share price is, the $100 range is kind of at the top end that I'm going to buy, because you just can't, I can't buy a lot of shares when it's that expensive. So the first thing I look for is, what is the dividend yield, that I want it to be over 4%. And then I'll look at the price and I'll see if it's something that is within my budget. So $100-ish a share is the top end of my budget. I'm just not wealthy like some of you all are. Good question, though. Certainly a good question, Raphael. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so for Carbide, their name is EV Terra. Here, I'll put it in the list here. EV Terra. And if you want to share with, if you want to put some names in here, if they're, I'm not opposed to looking at, calling some other folks up and getting some other pricing. So, if for Carbide, if you have if you have some other companies that I should give a call to, please go ahead, drop the list. I'm always open to other potential buyers. Let's see. Yeah, Gulf Coast is saying, if I could afford an electric truck, I'd love to have one. Yeah, I'm still not 100%. I'm still not committed to an electric truck yet. I'm sure they're going to get there, but we put a lot of loads on our trucks in this industry, and it's not like we're just using them to haul our keisters around and trying to look cool. There's too many people that have trucks that should be driving sedans. They just think they look cool in a truck, and they want to act like they're something more than what they are. Not that this is an issue for me. But anyway, because it drives up the cost of trucks for those of us that use them for what they're intended for as work vehicles. So anyway, as I read about some of the challenges that the electric trucks have had as work vehicles, I'm not there yet. I'll get there. I'm sure they will get there. So I'm still not quite there with EV trucks yet. We'll get there though. Let's see. Oh, Cruiser Max got a good comment regarding that. Let's see. Wait a minute. Where was it? So Cruiser, you have an electric 1-ton service van at work. How's that working for y'all? Have you had any issues with it? It would be really interesting to get your perspective on the vehicle. And when do you load it up with a lot of weight that it's carrying around, or is it just the tools and stuff for your service guys? Yeah, when it was cold, it could only make it to the next town before it needed a charge. Yeah, then you're probably, then charging time is what, an hour-ish or so, depending upon what kind of charger you can find there and the temperature. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something to it's definitely something to consider. Let's see. Oh, here we are. So Cruiser's saying that it costs $30 to $40 for a supercharge. Okay, that's to get it charged up real fast, so you're not spending a lot of time sitting there. Yeah. Yep. I'm absolutely certain that EV trucks are going to make it. We'll get there. It's just, and I'm glad that there are folks out there, and primarily companies that are out there that that are the that are out there taking the lead and buying these things, because that's what's going to help the manufacturing industry to understand the kind of changes and the improvements they have to make to the trucks so that EV trucks can be more useful. When you think about it, an EV truck for scrappers is actually a really good idea, because we don't necessarily have to go long distances, but we're driving around a lot in town. And so it'd be really nice if you could run around town to do all your pickups and stuff, and then plug it in and charge it up overnight when you don't need it. So it would make a lot of sense, and I'm looking forward to when EV trucks are really good to go. And of course, if there's anybody that is in the chat, lurking in the chat from Rivian or any of the vehicle manufacturers that would like to use me as a test case, I will be happy to test out one of your electric trucks in the business and share all kinds of information with you on it. Oh my. Let's see. Cruiser Max says it also has to be plugged in when it's cold, as the battery has warmers on it. Yeah. Okay. Rafael says the postman uses electric bikes. Yep, very cool. Yeah, I see a lot of them. I see a lot of electric vehicles around here. A lot of my neighbors have the electric vehicles, and it's kind of funny because they don't sound like a car, and you got to really be paying attention when you're in a parking lot and stuff because you might not hear them as they creep up on you and such. So yeah, it's in fact, I read somewhere, this was a while back, but I read somewhere where the safety standards folks were saying that they're going to require that if an electric vehicle is too quiet, that there be some sort of noise making device or sound making device for pedestrian safety. So that's going to be one of those interesting things, and maybe it's already there. Maybe that's what I'm hearing. That I think is just the motors running or humming. Maybe that's a sound making device that they've decided they need to make some noise so that pedestrians hear the vehicles coming around them. And I have an associate of mine who is looking at making electric buses. So it's interesting when I talk with him about the challenges that they're faced with making electric school buses in particular. The Biden administration is putting money towards helping school districts convert from diesel buses to electric buses. And it makes a lot of sense because you think about it, a school bus, it gets used twice a day for the most part, right? It picks the kids up in the morning. Then it can go back to some place, get plugged in and charged up, and then pick kids up or, then take them from school and drop them off in the afternoon, and then go back and get plugged in and charge up again. It's not like they're running around all over town all the time. And because they're doing a lot of starting and stopping, that they're putting a lot of diesel exhaust into cities and towns and things like that. So it really makes a lot of sense to have electric school buses. And there's a good example. I mean, you get a big old electric, you do the engineering so that you can move around a big old school bus, and then it plays into working trucks and stuff like that as well. But it's kind of expensive. It's pretty expensive right now. Cruiser Max says there is incentives in public work tenders through environmentally responsibility, so it can help with point weighting on a tender. Okay, yeah, I get you. I understand exactly what you're talking about because when I was working in the defense industry, we always had to look at the boilerplate, the different codes that the U.S. military or the U.S. government would put on requests for proposals, and there were always little things in there that if you could claim that you were doing certain things, then you would get bonus points that would make you more competitive, which meant you had more flexibility with your pricing, because that's usually the way it would work. You would take whatever your best price was, and then there would be, like you may say, this is going to cost $1 per unit, and then the government would give you 5 cents a unit credit because of some environmental thing that you're doing. So now you're down to 95 cents a unit. So you beat the company that was $1 a unit, even though technically the price was the same. So yeah, that I get exactly what you're talking about there, Cruiser. Yeah, you well, and it's actually interesting, Gulf Coast, at least in talking with the guy that's doing the buses, there's two ways that you can make an electric vehicle. You can essentially replace the one motor driving an axle kind of thing, so that you have one big electric motor, and then you've got an axle and the differentials going to the four wheels. Or the other way you can do it is literally to have the four-wheel drive, where you have a motor on each wheel, and you're balancing the speed of the wheels through controllers. And the approach that that different companies take, are they going to drive all four wheels, or are they going to drive an axle, which is then geared through the wheels? And it plays a lot into the efficiency of the vehicle and how well the vehicle operates. So there is an awful lot of that kind of engineering work that's going on. So let's see. Kevin, seen on YouTube a bus that runs off capacitors. It goes to the next stop and charges there. Next stop charges. Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, and one of the things that the electric vehicles do. Well, I don't know if all of them do it, but I know a lot of electric vehicles. They get energy out of braking. So when you're braking, you're actually generating energy that can go back into the battery. So that's another interesting way that EVs are taking advantage of the changing energy of a vehicle. So let's see, Raphael. Now the they give me are those elderly peep scooters. Normally they drove around on the sidewalk, but now they make a version with a cabin. Oh my God, Raphael, don't get me started, man. Here in Florida, we have retirement communities. There's a huge one in Central Florida called the Villages, but they're all over the place here in Florida. And when they build these communities, they build them with golf carts in mind. So sometimes there's a separate golf cart lane running parallel with the street where people can use their golf carts. And let me tell you, some of these folks have tricked out their golf carts like there is no end. I mean, they make them look like older fashioned cars, like race cars. They got, flags and shinies and bells and whistles all over them. It's hilarious the things that some of these people do to their golf carts. But they're electric, right? And so if you're driving in your car, you may not see them. And some of these people think that they have the right of way. They forget what the rules of the road and normal traffic situations are. And I swear to God, there are some times when I go either to the retirement communities or down to the villages in particular, I don't know how it is I don't kill, 20 or 30 of those folks when I'm there because they're just not paying attention. So yeah, I get it, man. I hear exactly what you're saying. Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, Gulf Coast. You know the villages, don't you, man? Yeah, you know the villages. I don't understand why they can't make energy while they're driving. Well, because they're using the energy from the batteries to cause the wheels to turn. So when they brake, they can draw energy off, but when they have to keep moving, either accelerate or keep the velocity on the wheels, that's when they're using energy to turn the wheels. So yeah, that's why they're not making it while they're turning. And Gulf Coast says he's been up here for a week and I haven't seen a crash. Yeah, a vehicle crash yet. Yeah. Yeah, and you get them all the time down here, right? Yeah, they're all over the place down here. So hey, so we're keeping on going here because our good friend Scrapping Irish is goofing off at a football game or a soccer game or something like that. I got to believe that he's half in the bag now because the game has been going on for a while. He was telling me the timing. So I seriously doubt that we're going to hear from Scrapping Irish. So, feel free to drop your comments. I'm having a lot of fun just chit chatting and, going on with folks here. So happy to keep going for a while here. If you have any questions or you want to talk about some other stuff, since our good friend Scrapping Irish isn't going to be up. This is the other company that I own a lot of stock in, Coca-Cola. And I don't remember. At some point, we'll look at Coca-Cola and Pepsi again. Remember, they're both decent companies to invest in. And so then it's just a question of, do you like Coke or do you like Pepsi? I don't know. Soda's soda. It's not, none of it's good for you. And it's funny, I've taken to, so this is the 0 sugar, 0 caffeine Coca-Cola. I don't like the flavor of Diet Coke. I really like regular plain old Coke. Just like plain old Coke. They used to have a thing called Coke Life. Came in a green can. It was made with stevia. That was really good too. They don't make that anymore. I don't like Diet Coke, and I don't like the one of the other low calorie Cokes that's out there. But for some reason, this one has a really good flavor to it. It's still not as good as full on Coke, but when you're trying to watch your calories, this is a good one. All right, Earl, take care, man. Great having you here. We will see you on the next one. Gulf Coast, the highways here are used for the right reasons, unlike Florida's highways. Well, I guess I don't understand. Highways are made for driving. So there's a lot of people driving on Florida highways. So I follow up with that one. What do you mean? Explain that a little bit, please. So let's see, not expert, but guessing Carlsberg Group could be the good one too. They own most of. Well, let's see if let's see if they're in my survey. Let's see here. Wait a minute. Let me get the index. Hang on a second. I've got the index right here. So this is the index for all of the companies that that Value Line does their survey work on in Carlsberg Group. I don't see them listed as Carlsberg Group. What would they? They're going to be part of the beverage industry. So let's see. Let's see here. Beverage industry. Oh my. Bum 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 bum. As Raphael would say, bum bum bum. Let's see. So I'm looking through. This is where I keep. This is the when they come in. After I've analyzed them, they go into this book here, so that I can refer back to them. And they are part of. If they're they're going to be in the beverage industry, right? You're talking about the brewery. They're going to be in the beverage industry, and I wonder what. They're not listed as one of the companies that is discussed. Now, that could be because they're part of a larger company. Hey, Raphael, do you know? Are they a brand of another larger brewery? I'm looking to see. Well, you know what? We'll tell you what we'll do, Raphael. I'll look into that a little bit and see if I can figure out if they're not analyzed by Value Line, or if they're if they're a brand within one of the larger brewing industries. And if they are, then I'll be happy to take a look at them for you after I dig into it a little bit and get that figured out. So what Gulf Coast is saying is that the lack of convenience is not present up here. You get on the highway, you go where you need to go. unlike Florida, where there's a traffic light every 30 feet, but not on the highways. Yeah, there's a lot of traffic lights up here, on our non-interstates. The interstates don't have any traffic lights, but yeah, the interstates can get really crowded because we just got a lot of people driving on the roads down here, right? Um, and in fact, I've spoken with traffic managers for Jacksonville and for Orlando, and they said it's not going to get any better down here in Florida. There just isn't enough money uh, anywhere in the budgets to be able to build the amount of highway systems that are necessary to handle the population growth that they're anticipating here in Florida. So Orlando's terrible. Orlando's like a freaking parking lot. I hate whenever I had to go to Orlando because it's just a mess. It's amazing to me that you can have 4 or 5 lanes across and no one's moving because the traffic is so packed. So it's just one of those painful realities down here in Florida that there's just so many people, and there's only so many places you can put roads. So you're just not going to get a lot of people moving. And then what happens is folks will bail off of the interstates and try to take the secondary roads, the state roads, the county roads. That's where you have a lot of the traffic lights and such that Gulf Coast is talking about, because you've got, they're going through communities and towns and things. And so it's a mess. It is just a mess. So, yeah. Oh, okay. Raphael said they were bought by Coca-Cola in 2011. All right. Well, cool. Then we got that one solved. So then, yeah, I got stock in them too. Yeah. I got beer stock, man. Oh, man. So, all right. We got that mystery solved, and we know that the roads suck down here in Florida. There's, I don't know if y'all have ever noticed Copperbuck Recycling. He's one of my viewers, and he leaves comments every now and then and comes up every now and then. But he says that the state sign for Florida is road construction ahead, because that's the other thing that goes on. It's like there's road construction everywhere you turn around here. They're adding lanes. They're doing HOV lanes. They're doing bypass lanes. It's unbelievable the amount of road construction that's going on down here. And they try to do these private public venture things where part of the road can become a toll road. So the company, that the company improves the highway system, and then they get a couple of lanes that are toll lanes, and you get what's called a sun pass. And as you drive down through there, you get charged different amounts depending upon where you are and time of day and stuff like that. And that's to help offset the cost of building and maintaining the highway system. Try to get some of it off of the burden from the taxpayers. And there's a lot of folks that have pretty strong emotions about that. They don't think it's right that we have to pay a toll. You don't have to pay the toll, but if you don't pay the toll, then you're going to be stuck in the traffic, because usually if you're in the toll lane, it's moving faster. So yeah, that's a big emotional one for a lot of folks as well. Anyway, let's see. What else do we have going on here? J.R. Cat and Gulf Coast are talking about some of the places that they've gone to and some of their vacationing. And so this cracks me up. Gulf Coast is saying he's only seen one Florida tag here. Is it your own? But it is funny because down here in Florida, man, we see tags from everywhere. You see them from all up and down the East Coast. You see them from a lot of the states, and we even see, you even get the occasional Canadian tag down here. We have a lot of Canadians that come down here in Jacksonville. They're snowbirds down here in Florida. So, So there's no end of tags that you see down here on a regular basis. It's really, really funny. So, all righty. Well, look, I tell you what, folks, comments are starting to slow down. So I think you all want to go have your Easters and have some fun. I'm going to go see what Mrs. Shark is busy cooking up for us. I hope you all have a great Easter, the rest of your Easter. If you don't celebrate Easter, I hope you at least had a really good weekend. And I look forward to, oh, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. Don't go anywhere. I got to show you something. I got a surprise package. So this is from the Merskels. They're viewers of mine and really cool folks. Every now and then I just get these packages out of the blue from them. And so we got this package here. So we're going to see what they sent me. I already cut the tape, but I haven't looked in it yet. That shows you how much I trust these folks. They're always sending me fun stuff. Just, oh, cool. Check it out. Armored gloves. Armored gloves. Graphene. So these are called armor guys. Armor guys. And here's all of the information about them. So it's graphene. You've got their ANSI code that tells you what they're designed for, cut resistance, and touchscreen. That's always important because wait a minute, let's test it. Oh, look at that. Yep, it works. I can actually swipe and change stuff because that's one of the big problems I have when I'm in the shop and the phone rings or something like that, and I got to take my gloves off in order to work the phone. So that's very cool. So very cool, very nice. I like that. Perfect size too. I would, a while back they asked me what size gloves I wear, and I was wondering what, I got plenty of gloves. You don't have to send me gloves. These are going to be really cool. We're going to test these out in the shark cage and see how we like them. They feel really comfortable too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to testing these things out. Yeah, gonna be chilly up there, so you might need to have some gloves on for the chilliness. All right, folks. Well, look, you all have a great Easter. I look forward to seeing you all throughout the week, commenting in the various videos and all that are coming out, and your videos that are coming out. And failing that, we will see you all next week on the channel. And hopefully we'll see you on Rafael's Saturday Scrap Night Live. If we don't see you on Rafael's channel, we'll see you here on Sunday at 2 p.m. or over on Scrapping Irish, who should be sober and recovered from his hangover by next week and have his live stream right after mine next week as well. All right, everybody, have a good one, and we'll see you somewhere over the course of the next week.